Reader-centered correspondence. We have three types of correspondence that you might find in the academic and business world, and all of them need to be reader-centered. In this unit, you're going to learn about audience awareness and always thinking about how your audience might be affected by what you write, what they might think about you as the writer, and what others who may read your documents may think. You want your documents usable and persuasive for your readers. It's not about you, it's about the reader. And we're going to create a professional letter for a major grade. First of all, we need to go over some of the conventions. In general, just like any kind of writing, like fiction has conventions, poetry has conventions, technical writing has conventions. Conventions means that it's conventional, it's customary, it's what people expect. And when it varies from that, people sometimes even get upset, but they wonder why. So with technical writing, there are some conventions for all technical writing. For example, in technical writing we have short paragraphs because a lot of the information is technical and therefore people want it in short paragraphs so they can digest it. So short paragraphs in technical writing. You want single spacing always with double spacing between the paragraphs. This is just the way it is, and that's why I tell you to set your defaults, because you may forget and have double spacing. So short paragraphs with single spacing, double spacing between the paragraphs. And we don't use paragraph indentations. That's with MLA style and other styles. So no paragraph indentations. We also like to use headings and subheadings to help the reader follow the progress of the information. So we use those. We use different fonts for emphasis and for different formats. For example, if a document is going to be printed, we typically use a serif font. And that means that the letters have little extenders at the top and bottom, and that will draw your eyes across the page. In digital format, when you read it on the computer, we typically use a non-serif font because the letters are made of little blinking pixels, and that's difficult to read in a serif font. That just adds more pixels to it. So we use a non-serif font, and I prefer Calibri. So I hope that's what I want you to use. The font size in technical writing is usually 10 to 12. I prefer 12. So set your defaults, Calibri 12 points, single spacing, and so forth. Memorize these because this applies all semester and to all technical writing. The first type of correspondence we're going to look at is memos. Correspondence, this is correspondence within an organization. So you might send a memo to one or two people within an organization, or you might send it to everyone in the organization. But you don't send it to everyone if it doesn't apply to everyone. So a memo is sent only to the people to whom it applies. The information is relevant to the receiver. Therefore, if you're getting a memo, you know that it must be something that you're expected to read and know about. Now, there are memos that you don't have to memorize, but you can file them for future use. The company that you work for may have a certain memo format. For example, you can see that this company, which is Huron Intermediate School District, likes to have this big word memo at the top. I don't like that because it's using extra ink. I just use this header is all I use. But if you're working for a company, use whatever they expect, whatever their conventions are. Usually a memo is only one page, but I've received plenty of memos that are more than that. If you'll look at the heading here, right here, notice it has to, from, date, and RE, and these are aligned on the left margin. And then they have a colon, and they've tabbed over to 6th to 12th grade faculty. So whoever it applies to, not 5th grade faculty, just 6 through 12. And notice that all of these are aligned. All right, so they tabbed over, so they're all aligned. Now they have these bolded. I prefer to have these bolded rather than these. This is not what's important. Also, the word RE, I would change it probably to subject, possibly goal or topic. And I have a different spacing here. They have used a line across here, which is not necessary. It just separates the heading information from this first paragraph. The first paragraph in a memo is a bit of a summary. It tells the reader what the memo is about and what they are expected to know. Then you go into detail and start using headings and subheadings. Notice the use of this heading and then this one and the short paragraphs. So summary, headings, short paragraphs. Notice the use of a numbered list here. The only time you would use a numbered list is if something should come in a specific order. Otherwise, use bullets. If it doesn't have to occur in a specific order, use bullets. All right, those are memos. This is memo structure, memo conventions. Be sure to read my memo printout so that you can learn about what I expect in your memos for the course. Business letters, you've probably all seen business letters. You receive them in the mail, even as junk mail. They use business format. In this printout that I have on letters, you will see some of the conventions. There are certain elements that must be present, like the return address, date, inside address, the topic line, the salutation, the paragraphs, the signature block, and there's some other things that will be covered in this printout. The layout and formatting are conventional. Nowadays, we use a block style. That's the most common, and it means that everything in the letter is aligned on the left margin. We no longer indent the date at the top. Once in a while, you'll find someone using a letterhead, and they'll center the date at the top. But mostly, everything is aligned on the left. In a letter, you want to get to the point quickly, just like in a memo. You don't want to spend any time trying to play nice. You don't want to say things like, "How are you? I hope you're having a great day." No, just get to the point. Be friendly, but just get to the point so they know why they're reading that letter, and you won't waste their time. Using a letterhead, you would not use that unless you are part of a company, even your own company. Now, it can't be like a company you make up in your head. It has to be a real company where you are doing business. The signature block has 3 parts. It has the cordial closing, like sincerely, comma. It has the signature, and then it has the printed name, your printed name. I have students all the time who will do the sincerely, comma, and have their signature and then nothing else. Or they'll have sincerely, comma, and have the printed name and nothing else. I don't know why they don't do all 3 parts. Also, envelopes. If you're in the business world or academic world, you want to learn how to use your printer so that you can create labels, or you can feed envelopes into your printer and have them printed out. You really don't want to hand address an envelope. Excuse me. It looks kind of tacky, so we'd want to try to show a professional demeanor. Excuse me. Emails. Now, emails started off as something friendly, so we got pretty informal with them. But then they were adopted by businesses and in the academic world. So, and it was within an academic community. So when they went into the business and between departments, we have to become a little more formal. And all discourse is persuasive. That means you send a message with whatever you write, whether you know it or not. It may not be the message you intend to send. You may think you're sending a professional message, but if you have misspellings, if you don't follow conventions, then they're going to form an opinion of you, the writer, not just to get the content they need. They will form an opinion of you. So your tone becomes important, your adherence to conventions. And in emails, we need to use a little more formality now, not less. Clear, specific subject lines. Don't send an email with a blank subject line. That's very sloppy. Start a new email for a new topic. Don't keep adding on to an old email just because you don't want to look up the address. Start a new email with a new topic and put that new topic in the subject line. Make sure you spell names correctly in the email. Dear Dr. So-and-so, just like in a letter, make sure you spell names correctly. It doesn't say much, anything good about you if you misspell someone's name. Create a signature or contact block for your emails if you are using them within a business. I have a signature block for my Tarleton email, and I also have one for an organization for which I volunteer. But regular emails between family and friends, I don't use a signature block. Be sure to edit. You send out a professional email, it doesn't look good when you don't edit things, and we all do it. You can't avoid it forever, but do try. And check before sending. Oh, it just makes me cringe when I check and then I don't find something and I send it out anyway. And it really doesn't look good if you have to retract an email. It's kind of sloppy. So try to avoid those by editing and checking your email. And while we're on it, acquire a professional email address if you don't have one. Sorry, allergies. The email address you've been using since junior high may not be appropriate for the business or academic world. Now, in the academic world, we have email addresses, but sometimes students will email me from their personal email addresses, and it really doesn't look good if you've got something like hotchick@gmail.com. Don't do that. Get a professional email address. And while you're at it, it's time to close up your social media. Make your photos private. Make it all private so that only your friends can see it. People look at that first when they're hiring, firing, investigating you for anything. I have used social media when I did volunteer work for CASA, which is I represented children who'd been removed from their home because they were abused. Well, the first thing I did was go to the parents' Facebook page and look at what they've got there. And you can tell a lot about a person by what they're putting on social media. So clean up your social media, clean up your email address, and adopt a professional demeanor. Remember to be reader or you-centered in your correspondence. I have arranged to have the equipment needed for your field work delivered to the Boise office. The emphasis there is on I, the writer, so we need to get rid of first person whenever possible. Let's make that you-centered. You will find the necessary equipment ready for you at the Boise office, so it's you-centered. Here's another one. We will reimburse you fully for expenses resulting from our error. Now that doesn't sound too bad, but still the emphasis is on the writer. Let's make it you-centered. Your expenses are being refunded immediately. That makes the reader feel better. They know they're being taken care of. Your conclusions are inaccurate because you failed to account for all variables. Here we are using you, but we are being accusatory. So that won't work. We don't want to be accusatory. Here's a better way to say it. Another variable to be considered is blank, without accusing someone. So both of these are passive voice, a be verb in a past tense, a be verb in a past tense. Sometimes the passive voice is appropriate. Most of the time, the active voice is appropriate. Pay attention to your wording. While you're looking at my documents and anything else that you read, pay attention to the wording. And definitely pay attention to the wording you use. Don't try to sound educated by using fancy words. Throw away your thesaurus. Use plain language. Any vocabulary you have right now should be just fine. I do use a dictionary, but I haven't used a thesaurus in ages. You don't need it. Technical writing needs to be in plain, easily understandable language. Not jargon or slang, but plain language. Don't use legalese unless you're training to be a lawyer or you're trying to confuse someone. Think about the audience. If you truly want your audience to understand, try to be as clear as possible. Using jargon, we really don't want to do that. Think about the phantom readers. They may not understand that jargon. For example, your immediate supervisor may understand the office jargon, but someone on up the corporate ladder may not understand the jargon. So think about who is reading it first and who might read it later on. Check your writing to see if you have a lot of prepositional phrases. If you do, you are probably turning verbs into nouns, and you want to avoid that. Use verbs more than nouns. So check for too many prepositional phrases. And use a passive-active voice appropriately, mostly active voice. Okay, where is the... There it is.